My name is Dawn Fortier. I'm 33 years old. I live in North Carolina, and until recently, I believed I was engaged to the man I would spend the rest of my life with. I'm not telling this story because I want sympathy. I'm telling it because silence almost convinced me I was the problem. I work as a construction project scheduler. I don't swing hammers or pour concrete, but I'm the person who makes sure crews show up on time, materials arrive before deadlines, and nobody is left standing on an empty lot with a clipboard and excuses. I like order. I like clarity. I like knowing where things stand. My cousin Dylan runs one of the contractor teams I work with. He handles the physical chaos. I handle the invisible kind. It's a good balance. Outside of work, my life was simple and steady. I lived alone. I walked my golden retriever, Finn, every morning. I cooked most nights. On weekends, I built model kits, architecture sets, cars, things that required patience and focus. I wasn't lonely. I wasn't searching. I was just open. Then I met Marcus. We met at a mutual friend's dinner, one of those gatherings I almost skipped because staying home felt easier. Marcus arrived late, loud, confident, instantly commanding attention. He hugged people like he'd known them for years, laughed like the room belonged to him. I remember thinking, he's probably too much for me. But then we ended up sitting next to each other. He made a sarcastic comment about the playlist. I laughed before I could stop myself. He noticed. We talked. He didn't wait for pauses, he created them. Somehow, instead of overwhelming me, he pulled me in. He texted me later that night. Coffee 2 days after that. Dinner a week later. For the first couple of months, it was genuinely good. He called me during his lunch breaks, sent memes, asked questions about my job, even though he clearly didn't understand a single thing about construction timelines. He worked in marketing for a wedding venue, which felt ironic later, but at the time just seemed impressive. He had energy, passion, big emotions, and after years of calm routines, that felt exciting. The first crack showed up early, but quietly. Our first disagreement was over a movie. I liked it. He hated it. He went on a rant about how women always mistake shallow action movies for depth. It wasn't a full argument, but it was sharp enough to sting. I pushed back gently, told him he was being dramatic. To his credit, he apologized quickly, said he gets defensive when he feels dismissed. Fair enough, I thought. But then came the party. We had plans to go to my friend Lena's housewarming. I told Marcus the vibe: backyard grill, folding chairs, casual crowd. He showed up in dress shoes and a blazer. I was in jeans and a sweater. You said it was a party, he whispered, scanning the lawn chairs and cornhole setup. It is a party, I said. For middle-aged dads, he muttered. He barely spoke all night. Sat on his phone, didn't engage. When we left, the silence in the car was heavy. Then it spilled out. I don't understand why you never consider my energy, he said. Do you even want me to feel special when we go out? I told him calmly. I explained the plan. You chose the outfit. No one judged you. He said I was condescending. I said he was overthinking it. We barely spoke the rest of the night. The next morning, he apologized. Said he felt out of place and took it out on me. I told him I didn't do drama over small things, but if something mattered, he needed to say it before it turned into a meltdown. He nodded, said he appreciated how calm I was. I let it go. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few months, moments like that kept happening. I'd be 10 minutes late picking him up. He'd be cold the entire drive. I'd suggest a restaurant. He'd snap, "You never want to try what I like." Always small things. Always reset afterward. That was the strangest part. After every outburst, it was like it never happened. If I brought it up, even gently, he'd say, "Why are you always focused on the negative?" So I started keeping mental notes. One day at Target, he wanted to buy a $150 LED floor mirror. We weren't living together yet. I asked if he really needed it right now. "Wow," he snapped. "So now you're policing my spending?" I said I wasn't. Just pointed out that he talked a lot about saving, then dropped money on things he didn't need. He stormed down the aisle like I'd committed some unforgivable offense. 15 minutes later, he came back smiling. "We good?" I asked. "You're lucky I love you," he said. It didn't sound sweet. It sounded like a warning. I mentioned it to Dylan later. He listened quietly, then said, "If he's like this now, what's it going to be like when you live together?" I didn't have an answer. Still, we had good moments. Road trips, late-night talks, binge-watching dumb reality shows, conversations that felt real and deep. I told myself Marcus was passionate, not controlling, emotional, not manipulative. So when he proposed, I said yes. It wasn't pressure, it wasn't desperation. I genuinely believed we were building something. I planned something simple, hiking at Max Patch, clear skies, Finn with us, lunch packed. When I asked, Marcus cried and said yes before I even finished speaking. Within days, the planning began. Pinterest boards, mood boards, dresses, lighting concepts, signature drinks. I didn't care much about the details. My only request was that we not destroy our future to impress people we barely spoke to. That's when the real cracks started to show. And I didn't know it yet, but I was already starting to feel like a guest in my own life. The moment the word wedding became real, everything shifted. At first, it was subtle, harmless even. Marcus didn't just want a wedding. He wanted an experience, a production. Something people would talk about long after the cake was gone and the photos were filtered. Pinterest boards multiplied overnight. Color palettes, lighting concepts, seating layouts. He talked about vibes and aesthetic cohesion like he was pitching a brand launch, not planning a marriage. I didn't mind the enthusiasm. What I minded was how quickly my role changed. I went from partner to obstacle. The first real fight was about the venue. Marcus found it. Of course he did. A glass and steel venue tucked into the mountains outside Asheville, lake views, in-house chef, floor-to-ceiling windows. It was beautiful. I won't pretend it wasn't. It was also $14,000 just to book the space. That didn't include food, or photography, or music, or anything else. We can't afford this, I said carefully, not without gutting the rest of the budget. His face dropped, like I'd insulted him personally. Why do you always shut down my ideas? He asked. I've dreamed about this forever, Dawn. Can't you just let me have one thing? I took a breath. It's not one thing, it's the first thing, and it eats half the budget. He went quiet, then he left. That night he texted me. I didn't realize you thought I was irresponsible. That hurts. I called him. He cried. I listened. I just want everything to be beautiful and perfect, he said. Is that too much? No, I told him, but perfect doesn't mean bankrupt. We moved past it, or at least I thought we did. The next few weeks were busy. He booked vendors without checking with me. A DJ, a photo booth, decorative upgrades I didn't even remember discussing. When I brought it up, he waved a hand. I didn't think you'd care about music. That stung more than I expected. Not because I needed control, but because he didn't even think my input mattered. Then came my office, the small spare room where I kept my model kits and shelves I'd built over years. It wasn't cluttered, it wasn't childish, it was mine. Marcus stood in the doorway one afternoon, arms crossed. So when we move in, he said casually, we'll find another place for all this, right? No, I said, this stays. He laughed, not kindly. You're serious? You think that belongs in an adult home? I looked at him. I'm not giving up things that make me happy, so our place can look like a catalog. He rolled his eyes and walked away. Later that night, he curled up next to me on the couch like nothing had happened. That was becoming his pattern. Storm, reset, expectation that I'd follow along. I didn't start fights over every slight. I chose my piece carefully, but I was watching now, really watching. The turning point came at dinner with his parents. His mother brought up the wedding and smiled at me. Marcus said you finally loosened up the budget. Smart choice. No one wants a cheap wedding. Marcus smiled into his drink. I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't flinch. Actually, I said calmly, we haven't changed the budget. We just reprioritized. Marcus shot me a look under the table. I didn't back down. Later that night, I asked him why he'd lied. It was easier, he said. They're old school. They think the woman should provide stability. So you let them think I caved? I asked. You're making a big deal out of nothing, he replied. That phrase was becoming familiar. I looked at him and said, if we're going to get married, I'm not playing a background character in your story. I'm not signing checks and smiling. He didn't argue. He just went to bed early. The next morning, he acted normal again. But something had changed in me. I started feeling like I was shrinking. Slowly, quietly, like my calm had been mistaken for compliance. Like every boundary I set was treated as a temporary inconvenience instead of a line. One night, after he went to bed without saying much, I sat on the couch with Finn curled against my leg and stared at the wall. I scrolled through old photos. Us laughing. Him dancing in my kitchen in socks. A version of Marcus that felt lighter. I couldn't tell if that person was gone or if he'd never really been there at all. I wasn't ready to walk away yet. But I knew this much. If things didn't change, I wouldn't survive them staying the same. So I decided to give it one more chance. And that decision would cost me more than I realized. I didn't give Marcus another chance because I was weak. I gave him another chance because I needed to know, without doubt, without hindsight guilt, that if I walked away, it was because there was nothing left to save. 2 days after the dinner with his parents, I brought it up gently. We were eating lunch at my place, sunlight spilling across the kitchen counter like everything was normal. Something's been off, I said. I think we both feel it. His shoulders stiffened immediately. You're always looking for problems, he said. Why can't you just appreciate progress? This isn't negativity, I replied. It's honesty. Do you feel like we're actually working together? He hesitated. That pause told me more than his words ever could. I've been overwhelmed, he admitted finally. Wedding stuff, expectations. I know I've been snappy. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I nodded. I believe that. But love isn't the issue. Respect is. He looked away. I told him I wanted to slow everything down. Scale back the planning. Less performance, more partnership. Focus on us, not the spectacle. To my surprise, he agreed. For about a week, things were better. We stopped talking about venues and guest lists. We went for walks, cooked dinner together, watched movies without our phones glowing in our hands. Marcus laughed more. He didn't snap when I forgot to take out the trash. He even asked about my day, and actually listened. I started to wonder if I'd been too harsh, if stress really had twisted both of us. Then the guest list came up. We were sitting in the living room, Finn asleep by the sliding door, when Marcus casually mentioned adding several friends from college, people I'd never met, people he hadn't spoken to in years. I suggested trimming it down, just to keep things manageable. He went quiet. Then he said, "Why do you always try to control everything?" "I'm not controlling," I said. "I'm coordinating. There's a difference." He stood up, pacing. His voice rose. "You just don't want me to be happy." That sentence flipped something in me. "Don't do that," I said. "Don't twist this into me trying to ruin your life." He stepped closer, hands clenched, face flushed. And then it happened. So fast I barely processed it. Marcus reached out and scratched my forearm. Hard. 3 sharp lines, like a cat striking in fear. I pulled back instinctively and stared down at my skin. One of the scratches was already bleeding. "Did you just—" I started. He froze. His expression shifted instantly, from rage to panic. "I didn't mean to," he said quickly. "I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to." "No," I said, holding my arm away from him. "Stop." He stepped toward me. I stepped back. "You do not put your hands on me," I said slowly. "Ever." He started crying. Said it was stress. Said he hadn't eaten. Said everything felt like it was falling apart. I listened. Then I said, "This is the line. If it ever happens again, we're done. No discussion." He nodded frantically, promised it would never happen again. I didn't believe him, but I stayed. Not because I trusted him, but because I needed certainty. 2 weeks later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, certainty arrived. We were halfway through a movie. I'd just made grilled cheese. The house was calm. Finn snored softly. Marcus picked up his phone and turned it toward me. "Okay, hear me out," he said, smiling. "Look at this lighting setup." It was extravagant. LED wall, fog effects, programmable glow patterns, $2,700 before labor and delivery. I didn't react immediately. "Let's look at the budget tonight," I said calmly. "If we can make it work, great. If not, we adjust." That was it. That was all I said. His smile vanished. "So you think it's too much already?" I didn't say that. "You always do this," he snapped. "You pretend to consider my ideas, but you're already planning to say no." I reached for my laptop to pull up the budget. He grabbed it and slammed it to the floor. The sound echoed through the room. Then he started yelling. "You care more about spreadsheets than me." I told him to stop. He didn't. "You know what?" he shouted. "If I don't get what I want, neither do you." He stormed down the hall. I followed him. He went straight into my office. Before I could stop him, Marcus shoved the middle shelf. Years of model kits, cars, architecture builds, hours of patience, crashed to the floor. Pieces shattered. Plastic snapped. Something slid under the desk. He turned to me and said, "You're not going to be surrounded by your little toys while I get nothing." That was it. I felt something inside me go completely still. "You're spoiled," I said quietly, "and you think love means letting you destroy things until you get your way." He grabbed his bag and stormed out, slamming the door like it proved something. I stood there in the silence. Then I took out my phone. I recorded everything. Broken shelves, scattered pieces, cracked laptop, every detail. When I finished, I didn't cry. I called my lawyer. "I think we're done," I said. And for the first time in weeks, I knew it was true. I didn't confront Marcus again that night. I didn't send the long text. I didn't ask for an apology. I didn't wait for him to cool down. I followed instructions. My lawyer walked me through it step by step, his voice calm in a way that made everything feel real. Freeze the shared accounts. Cancel every wedding vendor under my name. Change passwords. Document everything. By morning, the unraveling had already begun. The caterer, canceled. The venue, canceled. The DJ, the photo booth, the lighting add-ons, gone. We hadn't hit the non-refundable deadlines yet. Almost everything came back to me. Every booking had been on my card. Marcus hadn't paid for a single part of the wedding. The joint savings account was frozen. I pulled out my contribution and locked down the rest. The bank flagged it for review. Let Marcus argue with them if he wanted. Then I sent one message. We're done. Please direct all communication through my attorney. Your access to joint accounts and wedding services has been terminated. I didn't block him. I wanted records. For almost 2 days, there was nothing. I knew what that meant. He was waiting for me to reach out, waiting for the maybe we can talk message I'd always sent before. It didn't come. On day 3, he texted, "Hey, I still need the login for the seating chart. I forgot to save it." Like nothing had happened. I didn't reply. A few hours later, "You're being immature. This is both our wedding. Stop acting like a child just because we had a fight." Still nothing from me. Day 4, the tone shifted. 6 missed calls. A voicemail full of sobs. He said he was sorry, that he was overwhelmed, that I'd always understood him better than anyone else. He was right about one thing. I used to understand him. I also used to excuse him. On day 5, he showed up at my house. No warning. No message. Just Marcus on my front step. Eyes red, makeup smeared, hands shaking like he'd rehearsed the breakdown. I didn't open the door at first. I spoke through it. "I just need to talk," he said. "Please." Against my better judgment, I opened it, but I stayed in the doorway. I didn't invite him in. He launched into apologies, said he didn't know why he'd reacted like that, claimed he'd blacked out, said everything was spiraling and he was scared. I let him finish. Then I said, "You know what the saddest part is?" He looked hopeful, like I was about to forgive him. "I warned you," I continued, over and over. "I let things slide that would have had anyone else walking out months ago, and instead of respecting that, you saw my patience as weakness." He tried to interrupt. I held up a hand. "You gambled everything on the idea that I'd never leave, that I'd always come back and clean up the mess while you burn things down." His face shifted, searching for the next angle. "You weren't in love with me," I said. "You were in love with control, with winning, with being right." He straightened. "You'll regret this," he said. "No one will ever love you the way I did." I laughed once. "I hope not," I replied. "That kind of love is a slow death." I stepped back and closed the door. Then I opened it again. "One more thing," I said. "If you show up unannounced again, I'll file for harassment." I shut the door and locked it. 3 days passed. Then he posted on Instagram. Black and white photo. Long caption about protecting his peace, about escaping someone who controlled his joy, his finances, his happiness, about choosing himself, about being finally brave. The messages started coming in. Some people asked if I was okay. Others said Marcus had been telling them I emotionally neglected him, controlled the money, used him. I didn't argue. I opened a folder on my laptop and labeled it Evidence. Photos of the broken shelves, the destroyed model kits, the cracked laptop, and one photo I'd almost forgotten about. My forearm. 3 thin red scratches from the night he grabbed me. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. He replied with one line. "We're filing for a restraining order." I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. I didn't hear from Marcus for 3 days. No texts, no calls, no fake apologies wrapped in guilt. I let myself believe, just for a moment, that it was over. Then, at 1:17 a.m., Finn exploded into barking. Not his normal warning bark. This was panic. I sat straight up in bed as a metallic crunch echoed through the quiet street, the kind of sound you feel in your chest before your brain can name it. I rushed to the window. Marcus's car was halfway through my garage door. The frame was bent inward, the bumper crushed, headlights still on, engine still running. He didn't even try to brake. I grabbed my phone and hit record before my hands could start shaking. Marcus stumbled out of the car barefoot, swaying, screaming before I ever reached the stairs. "You ruined everything," he yelled. "I gave you my life." I didn't open the door. I didn't speak. I activated the door camera feed and called the police while he screamed in my driveway. "Dawn," he shouted, "come out and face what you did." He started throwing things from his car, his bag, a shoe, something metallic that clanged against the concrete. Then he tried to kick my front door. Missed. Fell backward into the grass. The police arrived in 6 minutes. Marcus was still yelling when they stepped out of the cruiser, slurring about betrayal and stolen futures. They breathalyzed him on the spot. He failed. They cuffed him while he was still shouting my name. I handed the officer everything: garage footage, door camera footage, photos, texts, the scratches on my arm, the lawyer's documentation. He scrolled quietly, then looked up at me. "You did everything right," he said. "You're going to be protected." Marcus was charged with DUI, trespassing, and property damage. His car was towed. I slept that night with every light on, and for the first time in weeks, without fear. The restraining order was granted 2 days later. 18 months, no contact, no proximity, no online harassment. The judge didn't hesitate. Then came the restitution hearing. Garage repairs, $6,200. Laptop replacement, $1,300. Shelving, destroyed models, floor damage, $3,400. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue emotions, stress, a momentary lapse. The judge raised an eyebrow. "So destruction is acceptable when feelings are hurt?" Full restitution ordered, wage garnishment if he failed to pay. Marcus didn't look at me once. Neither did his mother, who tried to follow me out of the courtroom until my lawyer shut that down with a single sentence. I repaired the garage, rebuilt my office, bought stronger shelves, saved the pieces that could be salvaged. Then I took the money I'd recovered from the canceled wedding, every dollar, and I left. 4 days in Colorado, solo, quiet, grounded, no explaining myself, no shrinking, no walking on glass. When I came home, my house felt like mine again. I didn't win because Marcus lost. I won because I left before I disappeared. And I will never confuse control for love again.